the door, I can't take this no more. Only 2 biscuits are left in my bed. A matter of time until I meet my fate. Tonight. Let's go! Melbourne, how are you guys doing tonight? It's good to be here. My name is Dave, otherwise known as the Kiffness, and joining me on visuals, live visuals tonight is Sean, Mr. Sakatumi, so please give a big hand for Sean. Oh man, it's really good to be here. This is my first time in Australia, and so far loving it. I know there are a lot of South Africans that live here. Don't worry, I'm not coming to live here just yet, but maybe one day, who knows. But yeah, before we get going, just three things, or two things that I'd like to clear. Firstly, every animal or person that you see on the screen tonight, they are the real stars of the show. I'm just the guy pressing buttons. I'm a glorified button pusher. The second thing is, I've reached out to every person or animal owner that make these amazing videos that I get to remix for a living, and I'm making sure that they're getting their fair share of revenue from Spotify. So I like to break the show up into three separate parts. The first part of the show is vendors, so the guys who sell stuff on the beaches, at the markets, and that kind of thing. The second part of the show is cats and dogs. And then the third part of the show is a complete surprise, so you're gonna have to wait for that. But to my first point, I really am just the guy pressing buttons. I've got a very easy job. It's just a matter of taking sounds and putting them together in a pattern that we like to call a beat. And to show you how easy this is, I'm going to try and make a beat for you guys in under a minute. And it normally goes something like this. Hi-hat. Open hi-hat. And then a bass line. better man selling sunglasses on the side of the street at a very good price. When I bought them one, I bought very, very nice. I said sunglasses man, I need a little bit of your advice. Do I look good? He said you can hide it, you look good, very nice. Said very good, very nice. 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 Alright, I think we've got time for one more vendor, and this chap goes by the name of Bubak, all the way from India. And Bubak had a very interesting business where basically you would give him your iPhone in return for raw almonds. It's a pretty sweet deal. And how this worked was, you know, he would enchant you and hypnotize you into believing that this is a great deal by the amazing song that he made. And, you know, someone just happened to film him on their cell phone, obviously just before giving it away. And it made its way onto the internet, and Bubak became an international star, and needless to say, he doesn't do this for a living anymore. He's an international pop star. But, you know, on his rise to fame, I thought to myself, let me see if I can make a remix of the song. So I tried, you know, a couple of things and they just weren't working until I decided I'm going to try drum and bass, a genre that I hardly ever touch. But for some reason, it just worked. And this one is called Kacha Badam, which means raw almonds. And for the first time ever, you're going to hear a little surprise in the middle of the song. So just wait. It's coming. All right, let's do this.
Bye.
question. Did you know that koalas can make that noise? I only learned that about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, but just had to put it in there, man. Koalas are amazing animals. But yeah, let's give it up for the vendors, everyone. We're now officially on to the second part of the show, which is cats. And yeah, before we get going, I want to give a little bit of background into how this happened. You know, I never thought that I'd be remixing cats for a living. Let me just say that first and foremost. But you know, back in South Africa, you know, during the lockdown, I was making a lot of parodies and satire just about the crazy things that our politicians in South Africa were doing, and it was a lot of fun for a while, but you know, it got to a stage where there was a bit of a target on my back. Politicians and the media started coming for me, and you know, in a way, I think the satire was doing its job, because I was kind of, you know, I was making the right people angry, let's just say that. But it got to a stage where it wasn't really fun anymore, and that's when I decided to take a bit of a step away from this, and I decided to make Ivan Polka, the first song that you heard tonight. And you know, I wanted to just make music that united people. You know, the satire and all that kind of stuff, you know, I either really had strong support or, you know, strong hate. And I didn't want to be that person that polarizes opinions. So I thought, you know, let me make something that people, no matter what their beliefs are or anything, can just love. And so I put out Even Polka, and it was like the best thing ever. So, you know, I was quite happy remixing other people from around the world, you know, Bilal from Ivan Polka, what's his name from Kacha Badam, Ubek. Yeah, I was happy doing that, but then someone decided to tag me in a cat video and said, can you remix this? And my first thought was, no, that's a bit strange. But there was something in me that just thought, you know, let's just try this out and see what happens. So I went into the studio and I took this cat sample and I messed around with it, and before I knew it, I actually had a song that I thought was quite cool, but it was also 2 in the morning and many things sound good at 2 in the morning. But I woke up the next day and it still sounded good. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put this out and people are probably going to think that I'm crazy. And I was right, people did think I was crazy. But I guess that's why you guys are and yeah, I just can't believe that this kind of music has brought me all the way to Australia and all corners of the globe. It really does blow my mind. And it's just a testament to the power of music. I just thought, you know, everyone loves cats and dogs and animals, and everyone loves music, so if I can take those two things and put them together, then I can be a unifying force in this world. So that's what I'm trying to do. I look out into the crowd and I see all kinds of people, you know, kids that might be attending their first concert ever, some other people that might be attending their last concert ever. But let me stop there. Let's get through this concert so everyone can make it through. And this is the first cat song that I ever made, and this one is called A Look a Look Cat. set you free, could set you free. I know you're hurting, I know you're hurting. Deep down inside, but in the darkness, great things you'll find. Come on! Something a little bit different now. And I know that I said I took a step away from political satire, but I had to dip my toes just one more time. Alright. The song goes out to all the animals in Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs, eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? It's something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. It's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets
All the people that live there.
they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets
All the people that live there.
they're eating the dogs. Eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets,
All the people that live there.
they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
All the people that live there. We're saving the dogs. We're saving the cats. We're saving the pets of the people that live there. Sing it! All the people that live there. Yeah. Whoa. Sing it! All the people that live there. So there are probably some of you here that didn't want to hear that song. You might have Trump derangement syndrome, I don't know, and I'm sorry that if you do, that I put you through that, but I've got good news for you because every cent that was made from that song, from streaming, from viewing it on YouTube, has gone directly to the Springfield, Ohio SPCA. We've raised over $100,000 for the SPCA there. I feel like I learned my lesson lesson from the past where, you know, I really do realize that political satire can divide people, but if you can unite behind a common cause, it doesn't matter if you support Trump, if you don't. I think everyone just loved that song for whatever reason. I think it was just because it was crazy and just for a good cause, but thank you for listening to it. And so I thought one cat song was going to be enough and, you know, I'd move on with my life. But after Look at Look Cat, you know, people just started tagging me in more and more cat videos and it got quite overwhelming. And I thought to myself, okay, I'll just do one more. Because the peer pressure was getting to me, so I thought, okay, one more. And I stumbled across this cat, for lack of a better name, I called it a Look at Look 2.0. And the song is called Please Go Away.
South African singer called the Kiffness. The Kiffness. And the song is called How to Make a Song with Your Neighbor's Cat. And I think that's exactly what he did. Take a listen to this.
So true story, that song did play on Jimmy Fallon. They have a section in the show where they play the most bizarre songs and see if the crowd likes it. And for whatever reason, the crowd, just like you guys, started clapping along, and then the Roots started playing. Seeing Questlove on the drums playing to my song was just the most mind-boggling thing I've ever seen. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Is my manager here? Do we sign an NDA? I don't care. Jimmy Fallon's producer sent us a mail saying, you know, we're thinking of getting all the best people from this section of the show and actually bringing them to New York. Or where are they? They're in New York, yeah? And perform the song live. I don't know if it's going to happen, I'm just saying. But the fact that they thought of us and said they want us on the show is pretty cool. I don't know if Jimmy Fallon's actually going to last that long because Jimmy Kimmel just got cancelled. So, we'll see what happens. Alright, let's get back to the cat songs. So those last cats they were great, don't get me wrong. But let's be honest, they were just making noises. Meow, 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 lugga, lugga. Fine. But these next cats can speak English. What I'm trying to tell you is that cats are evolving. You know? It starts with noises, lugga, lugga, lugga. Then it evolves to speaking English.
I'm alone.
And then the next and final step is world domination. I'm just saying. So be good to your pets because you never know how they're going to treat us in the future. And Big Billy is no exception. Big Billy has an important message for you. me. He's going through life successfully, so they make a big buck as I fly through the sky. Hold on to my bird, boy, don't you cry, 'cause we're gonna make it now, break through the clouds. No more ducky park, where are they now? It's easy to heaven when you're on the ground. You're up on the moon, don't hear the sound. Don't hear the sound. Speaking of a dog is barking, are you guys ready for a dog song? Right, this next dog goes by the name of Haiku the Husky. If you don't know Haiku the Husky, he is the most prolific dog you'll ever find on Instagram. At one stage he's putting out one song per day, I'm not even joking. And someone put me onto Haiku, so I was scrolling through his plethora of just amazing songs until I came across this one particular tune that really, played at the heartstrings. It really resonated with me. It felt to me that Haiku was trying to say something, that once upon a time, he was not a pet. He was a wolf running wild and free in the snow. And it's a song about remembering where you come from. Music is such a powerful tool. It can take us back thousands of years to our ancestors, to our forefathers, and this is what Haiku is doing. So this one is called Ancient Husky Melody. It's my first gig in a while. Been sitting at home eating chips.
Chips.
Yeah. Just give me a second, sorry. It's amazing how quickly you lose it. I mean, we went on a 7-week tour of the States and, you know, by the end I could play this whole set without dropping, you know, one bead of sweat, but gotta stay fit. So we are on to the surprise part of the show now. Do you want to hear what your next surprise is? Do you want to hear your next surprise? It's another cat song. This goes out to all the lonely people. People who are sometimes alone and sometimes not. Sometimes I'm alone. Sometimes I'm alone. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm alone. Sometimes I'm alone. Such a pity you don't know who you are, 'cause you are a shining star. That little voice of yours is opening all the doors. You thought were closed, but they're opening now. Surprise! Okay, it's in. All right. Song goes out to anyone with a cat that wakes them up at 5 in the morning. It's 5 in the morning and there's no one around. And out of the darkness there's a serious sound. Echoes of a cat again. No one wants to hear a xylophone. Lucky for him, he came to the right place. I carry a xylophone just in case. There's a cat who needs some company from a xylophone. So, I really don't take this platform that I've been given for granted. I always, try to use it to give back in some way. And, during the pandemic, there was just an amazing video of the cutest kid I've ever seen singing Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. He goes by the name of Rylan. He touched many hearts. And unfortunately, Rylan has been struggling with Lyme disease lately. He's been in and out of hospital. So when I heard this, I thought, let me see what I can do. I made a remix of the song and then just, raised awareness of what he's going through. And thanks to you guys, you've raised over $100,000 for Rylan and his medical condition. So, keep him in your prayers, and whatever you're going through, I know the world is a crazy place at this moment, but just know that everything's going to be all right. So let's sing the song together.
Go
and the kangaroo. I mean, this is the best. I'm just going to take a 15-minute break. And then if you guys bought merch, I'm going to come over to the merch stand in about 15 minutes and come say hi to you guys if you want to stick around. If not, please get home safely and God bless you all. Thank you so much.